Ha! It worked, Andre. We're back.
Yeah, there you are. That was the quickest 30-second countdown I've seen in my life.
Well, I decided that people, I got bored of myself of watching that 30 seconds tick down, so I thought I'd make it really nice and short. It helps people on the replay so they don't have to watch, that whole ticker come down. So hopefully we'll get some likes for that, Andre.
Okay, I mean that's that's all good stuff. I mean it's we're always trying to improve something. You know what I mean? So yeah, and
so we're excited to be back, and here's the title slide again, which is finding hidden profit in your business. So we have a very simple mission for today, and that is just to give you 1-2 ideas as to where you might find additional profit in your business. And we've come up with some very low risk ideas. I mean, we've implemented these ideas many times in flooring companies, and Andre, in fact, on average, the flooring companies we've worked with, we deliver over $900,000 of profit improvement, over $1 million of free cash. We reduce debt to equity. We help them improve their revenue. So these techniques actually work. And the one danger that Andre and I were talking about before we came on is we don't want to seem like we're lecturing to you. So we're just trying to give you some ideas, have a little bit of fun, and you take some of these ideas away. So we'll try not to get too serious with you. We've got 1 or 2 slides. In fact, this is a very interesting show because Andre now is he's in control of the slide deck. So I'm very nervous.
Mick, listen here. You know what? You mentioned fun. I promise you now, if I want to have fun, the one last person I'm going to call is you. Okay, so my lord. Okay, so anyway, do you like my new shirt? I've got a new shirt.
I do. As you were saying earlier,
a new shirt for the show.
You've got a new network.
I've got 2 shirts.
600 megabytes. I mean, the video's coming over. I mean, you look like a rock star now.
Hey, man, I can't believe how handsome I am. I mean, this is driving me nuts. Yeah, Mick. So here's the thing. I mean, the really the great thing to me is that there are such basic techniques that people can deploy within their own organization, and have use these capabilities to first of all galvanize others around, okay, how do we improve our business without the ability to think about, because the first thing is people think about, if I want to make more money, what do I need to do? I need to cut costs, right?
Yeah, cut those costs.
Yeah, right. I've got to go and cut costs. Now, the problem with cutting costs is that often what we do is, yes, we take a little bit of fat out, but we also take a little bit of meat, and sometimes we even take a bit of bone. So, and that is always the hard part of cutting cost. And we're not Mick, here's something that I don't think we've mentioned much about this on any of our shows. We're really not about cutting cost. So we are about investing. However, at the same time, we are about organizations driving the maximum out of the investment that they've made. You know what I mean? And yes, there are ways of looking at the business and using those techniques to make some fairly significant improvements. And hopefully, today we're going to just use some of these techniques, and people can deploy these things with very little requirements, very little data requirements, but they are really nice to get everybody involved in.
So Andre, we must impress upon people that we will be expecting a royalty. So 10% of all of the profit.
Yeah, right.
You just funnel it into our accounts if you.
There you are.
But joking aside, I know a lot of people are tempted to reduce costs. We've had a very difficult period, but here are some ideas that you can actually improve your business. Don't go straight to the cost side, as Andre said, how do we leverage the assets you've built, the people that you've developed? We want to deliver opportunity to the machine that you've built, and this is what today's show's about a little bit. So you prepared some amazing slides, Andre.
No. Let's not use the word amazing. Okay, let's just temper some kind of damn expectation around here. Mick, can you see my screen? Right.
I can. I'm adding you as we speak. Look at that.
Okay.
Technology.
So Mick, here's the thing. I mean, as you know, I've discussed this a little bit, and we use this quite regularly with many of our customers, and we found that they like this because the issue around this is not just because it's very easy for people to understand and consume, but it really engages thinking. And that's the hardest thing that we find people struggle with. They love to have the solution, but they don't really like the hard part, the thinking part to get to the solution. And little techniques like these and really help to galvanize around that. And the nice thing about this, Mick, is there's essentially we call it the 4 ways to grow. I mean, if you think about organic growth, so we're not considering, acquisition type growth. Okay. Right. And hey, look, nothing wrong with that. Good acquisitions are we welcome that and we welcome that thinking. But, if people are saying to themselves, well, my pipeline is a little bit bleak. My backlog's a little bit down. And how do I, galvanize my team around just the thinking of, look, what, we can do a little bit better. And, so we talk about this 4 ways of organic growth. And really, if you think about organic growth, Mick, that is the most easiest way to leverage the current asset, the asset that we have in our business, the investment that we have in our business. It's all about organic growth. So what are those 4 ways, Mick? I mean, instead of me doing all the talking here, and take us through just the basics of how we can grow our organization.
Yeah, and just so as you're watching here, we're going to be talking about 3 things today. We're going to be talking about growth, which is what we'll be talking about now. Then we're going to be talking about some areas of the business that require focus. And the third thing we're going to be talking about is some portfolio segmentation methods. So we're on growth right now. And so, this growth matrix, as you can see across the bottom, we've got current products and services. And then we can also have new products and services. And then on the other axis, we've got our current customer base and our new customers. So you can see in the green box, and we're really focusing on our current products and services being offered and delivered to our current customers. The box to the right is, okay, let's go sell some new products, some new services. That would be how we would extend our product or services to our existing customer base. There's a little bit more risk associated with that. At the top left, we're taking what we know really, really well, our current products and services, and trying to identify new customers. That would be developing our market. And then the really risky strategy is where we go into the blue yonder and we offer new products and services to customers we've never worked with before. They're all legitimate growth options, but they all come with a different degree of risk. So that's the matrix. And when we were talking about this, I thought this was quite a simple little diagram. And then Andre started asking me his thinking questions, and we got into a little bit of some richness of that.
I mean, Mick, this is the thing. When and tell me something. Now, here's the key. When we use the word customer, what does that mean?
Well, that was the beautiful thing that we talked about earlier. So, when we work with teams and businesses, we'll say, who's your current customer? And they'll pull up a list that's at least going back 3 years and say, this is our current customer base.
Right, it's names like Hensel Phelps, Whiting Turner, Hawke, et cetera, et cetera. Those and here's the thing, which sometimes I really find this quite interesting. When anybody ever, when we ask for data and we say, please, can we have a list of your customers and the type of business activity, your revenue and your margins that you're doing with your customers over a period of time, right? We have never, ever got anything different than the name of the customer. I mean, that comes out of their accounting system or their ERP system, and that's what it is, right? Okay.
Yeah. So one of the first growth ideas we have when we come into any business is, the biggest opportunity is in people that you've already worked with. So we'll say something we think is quite practical and straightforward. We'll say, hey, why don't we send an email to all of your customers that you've worked with over the last few years? And they go, okay, and they bring this list of companies. Well, the company didn't buy the flooring and the finishes, right? A person did. So there's a blog on our website, flooringbythenumbers.com, and you click on the blog option. There's one blog there called, companies don't buy floors, people do. So when we talk customers, Andre, absolutely, your point is it's a person. It's a person who
but even before we get to the person, is it Hensel Phelps just in total, or is it Hensel Phelps, specific branch, the Nashville branch, or how do we really look at the word customer or client or whatever the thing is? And guys, I know you might say, well, hell, what a crazy, this is just archaic that these guys are talking about this, but it's so important, because here's the thing: when we understand really who the customer is, in other words, the buying entity, it's either a senior project manager or a senior project management team, whatever that is. When we look at that and then we really get to understand, okay, how effective are we with that buying entity, and suddenly we also see different opportunity.
Yeah, and that's why I like the word there. This box is all about market share, and even share of mind. So yes, we might be selling to Hensel Phelps, but Hensel Phelps has 7 different divisions, and in each of those divisions, there are multi-billion-dollar divisions have got multiple project managers in there in multiple locations. So our share of that customer's business might be very, very tiny, but we're convinced that we're their main supplier because we get a job with them every year.
Right, they are our top customer. They are our top customer, and yet in theory, there's 6 different project managers that don't even know that we exist, right next door to each other.
So the practical takeaway, guys, is think about the current customers where you've done great work already, and think about who are the additional individuals in that business that you can network with, that you can call on, that you can offer your services. That's a big opportunity to grow, and it's green. The green light is on with that one. Very, very little risk. That's where you want to go, first off.
Right, and Mick, what I'll do is just so we're still on this word customer, okay? So here's the thing: once we've defined exactly who the customer is, first of all, that helps a lot, because we've spoken a lot about salespeople and how territorial they can be, right? Okay, so when they talk about a customer, they'll say, Whiting Turner is my customer, or Hensel Phelps, or whatever the case may be. These are my. So they become territorial around the customer, which is problematic on its own. But if they define the customer as the buying entity, suddenly that's what they own, not the whole, not the other 20 different opportunities that we're not even touching.
Right.
So that's the first thing, and we have a little exercise. Let's just so I'll move up and down, and hopefully this is not going to become too confusing, because I seem to have a tendency to do that. But when we look at customers, hey Mick, right? Okay, sometimes it really helps to get a feel and really understand which customers are in alignment with who we are, and this is just a little matrix that hopefully can help us get there, right? So just small techniques that can help us get there. And I mean, it's a very simple way of just looking at it. What we like to be able to do is, first of all, we define basically the customer. And then what we like to be able to do is establish those attributes around the customer. So what are those attributes about the customers that we want? So on the one piece of paper, we write down just those things that we want. We want to be able to work together. We want to be able to have the ability that we can bill in the right way, that they're going to pay us properly, that you know what I mean, that they like the fact that we are a single source for the full contract. All of these sort of attributes, and once we understand those attributes, then we can sort of also get a feel for those attributes that customers believe are pertinent to them. And I tell you what, Mick, in every one of our clients, there are customers who really believe in that organization, have had long relationships. I mean, you're talking about 15, 20 years of relationships.
Yeah. And you've got multiple relationships, you've got executive level relationships, you've got project relationships, you've got estimating relationships, you've got sales relationships, and you work together to optimize a result. You get a good profit margin out of it. They pay well, they pay fairly. Those are the customers that we love, and they love our ability to be able to execute those types of jobs. Those are our quadrant one types of people. But equally, Andre, there are we go into organizations and there's customers that are nasty and very problematic in terms of payment. They're always haggling. They start off with a low margin, then they hold on to their retainage, and they're always fighting you on change orders. They need what you do, but do we really need that headache? Well, sometimes we're prepared to put up with it, sometimes perhaps not. But they do need what you want, but they fall into these two kinds of categories.
Right, and then of course there's a very competitive environment out there, and if you think about sort of the category of there's customers that if we can't give them what they want, they can just go somewhere else. So they don't really.
They're not wedded to us. So our positioning with those kinds of people has to be different, right? Because there's 4 or 5 people that can execute that work. The customers really want that type of work, but they can go to multiple, shingles and buy that. So we have to treat those customers, a little bit differently. And then the quadrant 4 is the customers can buy what they want from pretty much anywhere, and it's the kind of work that we don't either do really, really well, or they don't pay really, really well. It's convenient now and again for us to take on that work, but it's not something that we should be spending a lot of time on. So those are the four quadrants, and how you spend your time on those, Andre, is where you're going to cash the check and where you're going to get the profit that we've talked about.
And you think about it, where is our resources spent? It's so often, and I mean, I know that people would maybe dispute this, but if you think about it, where a lot of the areas, the problem solving issues, the difficulties that we have, the increase in trying to collect our money, doing all of these things that is normally not inherent in segment 1 and segment 2. It's really been have this massive concentration of resources, and they happen in this sort of segment 3 and 4. And really, where we should be spending our time, where we should be spending our money, where we should be investing, is in segment 1 and 2. And normally we don't, because they know how to work with us. It's a lot easier. Everything is better. So we don't do that. But that's where we should be spending our time.
Right. So we have some different strategies for each quadrant, as Andre just said. Those customers that really appreciate what we do, and it's the type of work that we're really good at. We like doing it. We can do it repeatably. We have crews who can do that, day in, day out, deliver it flawlessly. We want to make sure that we invest in growing that portion of the pie. If you think about the first slide, we're still in the current customer base, right, where we've delivered our current products, but we want to make sure we do more of that kind of work. We want to invest our sales time, our executive calling time, to make sure that we really nurture that segment.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you just a classic example. On segment 1, once we know who that is, just the very simple thing about giving or attaining a referral from because obviously in segment 1, this is your loyal customer base, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. And just the mere fact that you can use that loyalty and convert that into a referral and transfer some of that loyalty, transfer some of that love to others who have the similar mindset, right? And we don't do that. What we do is we land up going to try and fish in these, segment 3 and 4 ponds,
right?
Because we already believe that we've got this work, so we don't think that there's more opportunity there. But in the meantime, that's the area where it's the greenest. It is absolutely where we should be.
And your point, Andre, it is well made in that we'll go where it's easy, right? We'll go fish in the pond, we'll go on the bid board, we'll be in that little blue ellipse down there. It's harder to think about. I mean, segment 2 is it's the type of work that we want, but the customer can go to a couple of different places. So we've got to put a little bit of effort into what we say is improving our value proposition. Now, value is in the eye of the customer. So in order for us to really optimize segment 2, we need to spend a little bit more time understanding, what the customer's end goal is. How can we help them? What do they really value? You've got to do a really good sales job in understanding what they think is important and build that into your messaging and your delivery so that you start to stand out amongst the other players. But it does require a little bit of thinking, which Andre, people tend not to do, a little bit of hard work to really differentiate yourself so that you move quadrant 2 over towards quadrant 1.
Mick, and here's the thing. If ever somebody was prepared to do this type of exercise and they actually identified, their customers and established the value of their revenue. Let's just take revenue, right? For the moment, just start off with revenue, okay? And said, how much revenue do I really have in and brutal, just use the absolute damn brutal. How much revenue do I really have in segment 1? What is the type of revenue I have in segment 2? How much do I have in segment 3? And how much do I have in segment 4? Now, segment 3, 4 is, you could even put that together as one. I'm fine with that, but really the two key elements are the 1 and 2 versus the 3 and 4. And I can tell you one thing now. So the first thing is, once we establish what that is, right, I think that would be a surprise to many people. Just that piece of, just that data point on its own. how
Right.
much revenue do I have in 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4? If I am very honest about how I am defining who those customers are, if I'm very honest about that, then the next thing is, if we had established, okay, how much profit, how much margin in the jobs do I have in segment 1 and 2? And then when I start looking at what is my conversion rate with my bids in segment 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4, and what is the quality of the work that I get? I guarantee you that, you have those customers that, want you to do these relatively small jobs, and they want you to do these small jobs at very low margins. How much, and we're going to go and have a look at that in a little minute when we do some portfolio analysis.
Right.
And suddenly you start seeing, well, hang on, the majority of this customer is with jobs, let's call it, less than $10,000. And, we're averaging 20, 22, 23% margins. I mean, how do you make money out of a job that's around about $10,000 at 23% or 22%? How do you make money out of that?
Yeah. And we'll come to that, Andre. But I think your key point there is just a very simple. If you just went with a little exercise and you got your team and did a flip chart exercise and tried to map those quadrants, what it will tell you is the attributes of the people that you really, really want to invest in, and the attributes of the people that are a pain. And then you have your conversation with your salespeople. We're looking for customers that look a little like this, where you have all the successful attributes, and we don't want as much of this. It's a really good exercise to at least start steering your sales talent to go after those types of opportunities.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if ever there was the fortitude of, you could do this very same matrix for each salesperson, and have that that discussion, or each sales team, if you have teams, whichever way you look at it, but have that discussion with them and see really what is their portfolio doing. Because the next thing, my next challenge is, hey, Mick, look at segment 1, and if you compare segment 1 to, let's call them, last year versus this year, and if that segment isn't growing, then or if segment 3 and 4 is growing, isn't that already showing that there's some endemic problem with the way that we are investing, with the way that we are driving our relationships with our customers? So you can use this as a very, very powerful, let's call it, we always use those words, leading indicator, lagging indicator. And what I love to do is, I love to take the pipeline. And once we've established this, then it becomes relatively easy. How much of the work that you are bidding is segment 1 and 2? Right. Just what is the value of that? Yeah. Versus how much of the work is 3 and 4. Yeah. And automatically then suddenly the mindset changes a little bit, because it's evidence driven. That's why we like to use those words, it's the passion for intuition powered by evidence. So yeah, we've got to be intuitive. We've got to have that that creativity of us, but a little bit of evidence helps guide us to good strategy and good thinking. So firstly, just to guys, when you go and look at your business, and this is, Mick, this is not a big exercise. You can do an exercise like this in half a day. And, the power of doing this just already on its own creates a degree. There is a change in mindset that happens around this. List those attributes. See what each person, I mean, hey, Mick, what's a great exercise is we take, let's call it 10 salespeople, right? And we say to them, tell us those attributes of a customer that we really want, but let them do it independently, and then you put that list together and you see how different it really is, and you'll get a beautiful perspective around how the salespeople even think about their customers. So that's something for us to think about. Now, moving forward. And I said, hey, you know what? We're going to be all over the place, which we normally are. So please live with us.
It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, this is a great opportunity in terms of growth. If take your current customers who like you, right? We like working with them. Are there things that we have in our portfolio that we can add to them? So additional products, additional.
Well, hang on. Whoa, Mick, before you get it, let's stay on the green just for a second. Right. So we've had a little bit of...
We only have an hour, Andre. I mean, you right. We're 30 minutes in, so I love the passion around it, but we got a few subjects to get through. But anyway, I know you're excited about this, so let's go.
Okay, let's just live with me, please, for just a second, and then I promise you I'll shut up. I mean, that's, I suppose we'll have a show and we'll both look at the screen. How's that? I think that would be a perfect show. So Mick, here's the thing. Let's talk about products and services. What does that mean to us? I mean, surely we only have one product that's called a floor. I mean, isn't that the only thing we do? So, how do we look at in our world, the commercial floor installation world? How do we look at products or services? I mean, how do we look at that?
Well, we have a slide for that, don't we?
Do we?
I think isn't the next slide in there.
You think there's a slide for that? Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't even know where the slide is. Is it here somewhere? No. All right. Well, I can't. Yeah. Okay. So,
did you take it out? Okay.
No, I didn't take it out. I think that was still on the other document that you had. And anyway, you see, guys. Hey, even we dysfunctional. Okay, but but the big thing is, let's think about the services or the core capabilities that we have as a business, Nick. Traditionally, remember in the old days, what happened is, I mean, really, from a commercial viewpoint, it was vinyl, and it was sheet vinyl, right? And it was a lot of vinyl and a lot of sheet vinyl, right? And then, tile, various types of carpet tile came in, and then then our thinking moved towards ceramic, right? And yet even to this day, Mick, there are salespeople who are very reticent, let's call it, I don't know a better word, but reticent to even sell anything different to what they truly understand and do. So
and we see that in you'll have a salesman who's really, really successful in selling resilient, and one of his colleagues is knocking it out in terms of ceramics, and the resilient guy, he's so familiar with that he doesn't want to mess with tile because he doesn't quite understand it. And so there you have a customer that he's servicing well, but he's afraid to offer that service because he perhaps doesn't have the confidence, he hasn't had the experience. But as a business, there's a missed opportunity. There's more money, there's more hidden profit.
Right, and when they go and they bid that that project, they often just neglect or they ignore let's call it the ceramic portion, or they ignore the polished concrete portion, or and these are capabilities that often are inherent in the organization. We can deliver this stuff, and yet it's ignored. But the problem is we don't know that it's been ignored. That's the real problem. We as managers don't even know that it's been ignored. Why? Very, very seldom, Mick, do we see any form of, metrics around, how much we sell in our various core capabilities, in our various services. Be it resilient, be it ceramic, be it, polished concrete, be it epoxy, whatever those capabilities are. How often do we see people talk about, well, our epoxy business is growing?
Yeah,
you never hear those words,
right? And look, here's the example of different products in the portfolio. And sometimes when we look at it, people are selling it across the board, and sometimes, not at all. And, all of those have some very attractive margins associated with them.
Right. And some have, sort of very commodity driven margins, but as and really that depends on your, let's call it your product or service strategy. But as you expand that full scope offering, you now have a different way of providing at least a value proposition. So, and often what we find, just from an opportunity viewpoint, people don't deploy this. And I know that, I get it. I know that people are listening to this and they're saying, well, yeah, I don't really buy that. But that is the reality. When you start measuring it, you'll see how real that really is. So please, guys, look at your business from, how you are integrating your service offering and how your service offering is growing, and where is it growing? Here's the thing, we have a standard rule that, your, let's call it your polished concrete. If you're in that business, polished concrete and epoxy should be 10% of your revenue.
Right.
Now, how many times have we sat down and said, this is what it should be? And then, people don't even know what it is. Never mind what it should be, right? So automatically, these are just real opportunities that just sit right on our table. We have we've developed all that investment to do this, and yet we're not capitalizing on that opportunity.
Right.
So yeah, please keep that in mind. All right, Mick, now I'll leave it up to your let's call it the yellow dot.
So we've talked about the yellow segment, right, which is offering services and products to our existing customers. The next opportunity that's so you see on the top here, we go from less risky to more risky. Green, existing customers, existing services. Yellow, existing customers, new services. Orange, we're into looking at new customers for the first time, but we're taking our core competence, all of those things that we do really well right now, over to expanding it to new customers, new geographies, new markets, and really trying to bring in those new customers. And if you've gone through the exercise that Andre talked about in terms of the focus, right? We've defined the attributes there in the type of, segment one. We know what those attributes look like. We can describe what type of customers those, and they may fall into a segment. You may kill it in healthcare and you lose your shirt in tenant improvement. Whatever it is your core competence. Then when you go out to new customers, you want to try and go and attract the ones that are going to sit in segment one. At least have a plan around that. Don't just randomly, go out and say, we're going to put some bids out in this customer, but think intentionally about what kind of work do I want to bring in with a new customer. Because if you do bring a new customer in, you want to delight them so you can expand that account. So best to start with something you're really good at so that you can expand from there.
Right. So, and Mick, often the thing is, once again, what happens is, where do we go fishing? We go fishing over here for new customers. That's where we go fishing, because it's random, it's unplanned, it's just and normally when do we want to get new customers? When does that happen? It happens when, the pipeline's down, the backlog's down, the revenue's down. Now we better go and get new customers.
We've got people sitting on buckets, right? We got project managers sitting on buckets.
Right. And so the driving force to develop new customers is so reactive. It's completely reactive. Whereas, with just a little bit of planning and, a little bit of way, what we're trying to do is say, here is the opportunity. And often the best way to develop new customers is really in segment 2, and slowly migrate those new customers to segment 1. That is the theory behind this, if you think about it. So we have to identify those people. They may not really need us right now. I mean, they're still getting the work done. You know, their world hasn't stopped because we're not doing business with them. But that is where the opportunity, if they have the same characteristics as these in segment one, that's where we need to start fishing. Right. And you know what? Here's the problem with this. These people are normally loyal, Mick. So converting those into new customers is hard. So what we're rather going to do is go and fish in the easy ones.
Yeah.
Where there's no loyalty, there's no clear purpose behind the way that we do it, and hey, you know, that's when this whole sort of quote and hope happens, and you know, and then we get this mixed result, you know. And
the other thing in segment 3, when we do our portfolio analysis a little bit further down here, when you identify the projects that are problematic or they don't pay you too well, but you know, slowly over time, we want to be pricing the job so that we can move them maybe to like projects that we want. But some of those we're going to weed out completely. They're customers that we just don't want to work with. We can't make money with those customers. They consume too much effort and resources for the level of return that we get. So we shouldn't be frightened to say no to customers or to qualify customers out. But if all you do is fish in segment number 4, is you don't have the ability to weed people out.
Right, and Mick, here's the thing. I love, please, is that's a big one. You know, how do we say no? And you know, unless we have something that has clarity around our ability to say no. And here's the beautiful thing about just a simple damn diagram like this is you start learning where to say no. And over time that becomes really easy. You know, we've got customers that just, I mean, it's clinical. They know they're not going to get vendor support. They know exactly the conditions that that they're going to say no to, and they move on.
Right.
You know, so that's why having clarity around this segment 1, 2. Whichever way you want to define that, we're good with it, but it's the clarity of having that. And we, unfortunately, we don't see a lot of evidence with clients that really, at least have that clarity. So please, anyway, and guys, these are things you can do really on your own. I mean, hey, if you want our help, we'll help you, but you can do this very comfortably on your own.
Let's go back to slide 1, and the riskiest one is the top right-hand corner, where you're venturing out into new territory, new customers with new products and services. That's you're trying to diversify your business. That an example might be, we're a very established flooring company, and we've heard, man, the margins in floor care are way up there at 50%. We want a piece of that action. We're gonna pilot that surface care business in. Hey, we've got a new guy. He just joined us. A sales guy. He's joined us from another company. He knows a little bit about maintenance and floor care. And he lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we're going to go to Raleigh, North Carolina with floor care. Well, now you've got a new service in a new set of customers. I mean, the risks involved in getting the customer, getting it right, pricing it correctly, getting the contract right, having the installation crew, the crew to be able to deliver all of that. That's really, really high risk, guys. So don't think that the grass is greener over there with a diversification strategy. It's fraught with risk. That's why it's red.
Right. And Mick, the nice thing is that there is so much opportunity, at least in the greens and the yellows.
Yes.
Why would you want to try? I mean, how many times have I heard, people have gone into, for example, terrazzo. And man, that is a very different type of core competency. It really is. You know, that's why there's only a very few real terrazzo champions. It is hard, and they've lost their, both, their shirt, their shoes, and their socks on that. So, the thing is, instead of trying to invest in something that is higher risk, let's maximize what's on, those that low hanging fruit. And really, our gig here is more about, awareness. When we can create awareness, then suddenly the mindset changes. And suddenly then people start getting excited about business again. They start getting excited about, hey, we can do that. Now that they know we can do it. And really, those are the words we want to get out of this is, hey, we can do that. Simple, it's easy, it's executable. Let's make it happen type thing.
All right, let's move on to our third topic, portfolio analysis. This is Andre's, pièce de résistance. He is an absolute wizard because it involves the numbers, and he can look at your numbers and dissect your business, and we're going to try and give you the ability to do that. So at least you get a first pass assessment of where the money is. And there's a lot of money here, right, Andre?
Well, yeah, Mick, here's the thing. How many times have we been told by organizations and by our flooring company customers, there's no way we can increase our margin from, let's say the average margin's at 20% or 22% or 23%. We can't increase it. Yeah, it's
too competitive, Andre. I don't know what you've been drinking. You've been drinking the Kool-Aid. That's what our market will bear. If we bid more than that, we're out of business.
Yeah, we'll never get that work.
Right.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And yet, here's the thing. Yet, Mick, how many times have we done this, and how many times does virtually the same data come? Within very small margins.
I know this is your favorite exercise. You get it. You floor them. Pardon the pun. Every time with this, and
Mick, you floor them. Whoa, that was big. All right. No.
Episode 7 before I got to use that. That's pretty good.
Nice. I like it. Okay. But Mick, so when we do this, and guys, there's no magic to what we do. Yes, I think we have the ability to galvanize and to get things. But these are the techniques we use. There's no secret to what we do, right? It's really just more about how we do it, and putting a little bit of energy into it, and making sure that it happens. But here's the thing: if you had to go and segment all your work and say, I don't know, use any type of segmentation based on margin contribution, right? So and we're going to talk a little more about this, and I'll show you some very, very clever things to do. But just use the margins, okay? And at the moment, hey, start off with closed job margins. So, because at least at that point, everybody has the same confidence. They're saying, okay, well, that was really the margin, okay? Whereas, when we use, our estimated margins and all that sort of stuff, then there's some haziness. But use closed job margins and segment your work and say, okay, well, how much work did we actually complete with at 30% or more? And in this case, we're just giving you an example of just data that's averaged at pretty much the same. And how much work did we do between margins 25 and 30%? And how much work did we do between, let's say, margins 20 and 25%, and so on? And eventually you get to work that we did, at margins at 0 or less, or even worse than that, right? And have a look at your portfolio. Take the last year's closed jobs that you've done and deliver this exact portfolio analysis, right? And I promise you, first of all, the first thing most people get amazed with. You look at this specific portfolio. They had 77 jobs. So this is basically a $37 million business. 14% of their portfolio. 14% of the portfolio is done with margins greater than 30%. In fact, the average margin was 35%.
And they categorically told us, our margins, you can see there at the bottom, on average 20%. We can sell at maybe 22. There's no way we can sell above 30. We'll lose our shirt. And yet you proved to them straight off, 14% of your portfolio is at that. Duh.
Right, and so there is always a bucket of gold sitting somewhere. It could be with a certain salesperson, it could be with a certain customer or a certain relationship, whatever the case may be. That bucket's there. So what we land up seeing is, okay, well, now we've got these various buckets of how we make money. There's the 25 to 30% bucket. All right, well, that's 7% of our portfolio. Then there's the 20 to 25% bucket, which is about 26% of our portfolio, right? And so on. And then eventually we get to a place, well, there's this bucket of business that we're doing that's, ranging from, first of all, 0% or 15% and less. Well, here's the issue with that. 12% of our business, guaranteed, we don't make money. Very, very rarely do we make money in that segment. We just don't, right? And yet we continue to do this. You could see that business, that exact portfolio every year. Continue to do it every year. So very, very seldom do we get people say, oh, we definitely make money there. No, you don't. So all we're trying to do with this is to establish, really, okay, guys, where are we making money and where are we not? Right? It's very simple. So you can see, Mick, that 46% of our portfolio, we're making money. Anything above, let's say the 20. So that half of our business, we're making money, and half of our business, we're not. So what do? Hey, we progress.
Insanity is continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. We want a different result. We clearly don't want to do work where we don't make any money or we lose money. So we've got to identify what that is and how can we minimize that, in the portfolio, and how do we get more of this nice profitable work. It's not rocket science, but unless we do this portfolio segmentation, what I see, Andre, is that these businesses are so busy. We're so focused on the customer. We're so focused on delivery that we get caught up with all of the problems, fixing problems, delivering work. We just don't have enough thinking time to be able to say, okay, let's just steer the ship a little bit differently. And this is a great lens to be able to look at your portfolio and say, okay, we need to do more of that. And if you just had that one you can really start to think proactively about how we're going to seek and make sure that work is growing and certainly not shrinking.
No doubt about it, Mick. But the first thing is, when we start looking at where are we growing, Mick, and this is a little bit of the sad part of the story. So, Mick, what is the way that you have a story? Well, there's got to be a hero, right? And,
the two types of story, right? There's it's a tragedy or a comedy in the Shakespearean parlance. So it's either comedy, which is a great result, or tragedy, which is there's some kind of death or disaster. So you're going into the tragedy now.
Okay, I mean, it's always good to sort of encompass it in a story. Now, when this story says, where does the tragedy happen, or the comedy, right? The comedy is, hey, that you see that beautiful green strip at the top there. When that's growing, right, we're doing something right. Okay. When the pink or reddish, whatever it is, colors that I've used there, I mean, hell, please, I think I'm not colorblind yet, but, that stuff at the bottom there, when that's growing, then we really get into problematic, because that stuff, guaranteed, Mick, is cash consuming. So when we grow that, we consume cash. Okay. And normally you know this because your average working capital in our industry, the working capital per revenue dollar is about 22 to 23 cents, right? And you delivering a work at 15 cents or less. Well, that difference between the margin and your working capital, that's just pure cash consumption. So not only are we not really making money out of it, but we are consuming this very valuable cash resource that we could be deploying somewhere else. And
we must always inject our catchphrase, Andre. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king, and all of that pink stuff. We think it's all good because it's revenue, but it's a vanity metric because sanity is not happy because the margins aren't where they need to be. And as you just articulated, it's cash consuming. The king is very, very unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, he's busy taking Prozac nonstop. I didn't even know what that is, but anyway, the crazy thing is, I heard somebody say, "Well, I want to put my dog on Prozac," and so I thought that was. Do you think that's sort of interesting? I don't know, but anyway,
that was a little bit of a segue, but hey, I'm rolling with you, Andre.
All right, so Mick, I think and here's the story. The story then goes in. When you start using this same capability, remember we said start using this based on closed jobs. Well, closed jobs at the end of the day, hey, it's history. I mean, it's history. But when you start using the same segmentation let's start on your pipeline. And then, if you want to go to slightly less forward-looking, go into your written work or your booked work and look at this portfolio and see if it's growing. Because here's the other thing that I'm going to put a dollar on. Mick, do you remember our concept of red lights? Do you remember we discussed that?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So red lights basically is a job, right? So every job's a business, right? Okay. So red light is that job whose actual cost exceeds its expected cost or its budgeted cost. Simple as that. That's a red light. Okay. And I promise you now, you know where the red lights are here? Where do you think the red lights come? If ever there are red lights, where do you think they happen?
The red lights will all be in that low margin work anyway.
Normally, if you wanted to see where the concentration of your red lights are, you go to that stuff at the bottom of the barrel. And you look at that stuff at the bottom of the barrel, and I put a dollar on it, boy. That's where your red lights are going to be, for sure. If you have red lights, I'm saying that is where they're going to be. So, this is a way to slowly start understanding. And then when you look at this, and then you go back to that, okay, and you start seeing which customers of this portfolio sits with one. And I put a dollar on it. You see that green bit? Guaranteed, that's all one. That is all one. There might be a very lucky one that's not, but it's all number one. And often the second and third segment, that the second and third line, this 25% upwards, that's normally two. Mm-hmm. It just works that way, right? So then when we start seeing this, and we start seeing how much that we can have 14% of our portfolio that's driving, $1.7 million of our business $1.7 million, nearly $1.8 million of our contribution. Suddenly, that's worthwhile working for, and when we get more of this business, that's celebratory. Is that a right word?
Yes, no, I love it, Andre. Yeah.
Okay, that's celebratory. All right, it's like that's the nice thing about the word celebratory. Don't you imagine balloons coming up and sparkles and like things just all of those nice things happening. That's what we.
Cake. We've got to have cake. More cake when we got green. More cake.
There you are. Okay, so that's a little bit about really getting a feel for your portfolio by profitability. And then, of course, the next. Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, lots of numbers.
Andre, I'm going to go full screen here, so they won't be able to see your face for a second. And this is the last.
That's a good thing.
We've got, guys. I know we're at the hour, but this is dynamite right here. So stick with us for a little bit longer. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit, Andre. Here we go.
Okay. Well, all right. Is it already an hour? Serious?
Yeah. No. You're
Wow.
just full of value bombs, Andre. You just keep going, right? I had to put my glasses on because even I can't see some of these numbers. So bring it to life for us.
All right, so it's not really about the numbers. It's just, I put this slide here just to show that, it's so easy to do. Really, what this segment, it's the same thing. It's roughly the same portfolio, but all we're doing is we're segmenting by the size of the job, the size of each individual project, right? So the first thing we're saying is, well, how are we performing with our large projects? Those whales. The things that everybody wants. How are we performing with the segment between, let's say, those projects between 500,000 and $1 million? And then how are we performing between those projects of, let's say, 100,000 to 500,000? Now, those segments, or whatever words you want to use, and you can do whichever way you want it. I mean, these are just examples. So, and then we looked at the segment between, jobs of 50,000 to 100,000 and jobs of 20,000 to 50,000, etc. And, what we want to then see is from an estimated viewpoint. So the budget, the job budget, what percentage are we getting from a budgeted perspective? So, for each segment, in this example, our $1 million jobs, we budgeted that at about 20%. All right, that's more or less where that type of work. I mean, if you're getting a lot better at that type of work, okay, you're pretty cool. And then there's the next segment between the 500 and $1 million, and we budgeted those or estimated those at roughly 20%. And the next segment, the 100,000 to 500,000, well, we've estimated those at 19%. So it's interesting that we can estimate the larger jobs slightly higher than the smaller jobs. But anyway, and then the sweet spot for us, there is the $50,000 to $100,000 job. We're estimating that at about 26%. What's terribly interesting when we look at just that little piece of data, we notice that those jobs between, so let's say between $10,000 and $20,000, we're doing that work at 19% and 20%. This is what we're budgeting them at. We're selling them at 19 to 20%. Yet the jobs between $50,000 and $100,000, on average, we're getting 26%. So already, isn't there a little bit of dysfunction there? Okay, so number two is, guys, when we're doing jobs of the size of $10,000 at 20%. All right, how do we make money mobilizing, collecting all the various work activities for a small job at 20%? Well, how you make money out of that? Please, I don't know. Okay, but then the next part is, okay, now that we know what we sold things for, what are we delivering things for? So you can see that those big jobs who were sold at, so the expectation was 20%, right, are now being delivered at about 17%. So of course, there's our red light, immediate red light. Okay, so that says in that category, we've experienced $457,000 of margin destruction. And we're complaining about how to make money. Well, in that portfolio of, basically, $5.4 million, there's $500,000 just sitting in that one segment of, red lights. And so essentially, there's already an opportunity sitting right there for improvement. And, you look at the next segment, where those $500,000 jobs to $1 million jobs, well, We delivered those at 15%, yet we sold them at 20%. And, Mick, I know a lot of people are going to look at this and say, that's not my business. We don't do stuff like that. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And nine out of 10.
There are always, every business we've gone into, there's always red lights. And no, you're not going to get all of it back. But, we pretty much, when we come in, we're pretty confident we can get at least half of the red lights back. So you see that red light total at the bottom in this business, $1 million. We know just with some very simple, practical methods, we could yield $500,000 in that portfolio right there.
Right. And so yes, just to finish this off, because we've got to do this relatively quickly now. Our sold margins on average is 20%. We're delivering those sold margins at 16%. So, if you just take each category, and we still sell the big ones at 20%, we still sell, the next category at 20%. But, we start this category between $100,000 and $500,000. We start just pushing we just push that barrel a little bit, make that 22%. We keep the next segment at 26%. We keep the segment after that at 26%. But where the big improvement comes in is these small jobs. We just say, hey, listen, you know what, guys, when we're going to do this type of work, we have to be at 30%. And you know what? 9 out of 10 times, very, very seldom, there's no resistance. Because it's just too hard for anybody, for any contractor or end user. I mean, first of all, if it's an end user and you're not getting 30%, well, then that's a miserable customer. And, we start pushing that barrel a little bit. So we move these average margins to 22%. And you know what? The outcome is a potential opportunity improvement of about $1.5 million on pretty much, roughly a $26 million earned revenue business, $26 to $30 million.
It's even more powerful than that, Andre. That's $1.4 million of additional, gross margin contribution versus what they had before, which was 4.3. 14 into 4.3 that's 30% right there. That's a 30% profit improvement.
And make that one. Hey, let's just be real. Let's say we just get 50% of that, just 50%, right? Okay, that goes straight to the bottom line. Straight to the bottom line. No additional cost required, nothing. It falls straight to the bottom line. And then, suddenly, things change, because not only does it fall to the profit line, it is also very cash flow friendly, extremely cash flow friendly. So why would we not do this? Why would we not expose this? And, you can do this portfolio. You can do this by customer. You can do this not by customer, by salesperson. You can do this by your branch. There's various ways that you can do this. And not a lot of work, relatively easy. So, yeah, there's our story, Mick. Thank you. We had a little bit of fun. I hope it wasn't too, lecture-ish. You know what I mean?
No, great nuggets there. So, in summary, number one, we showed you the 4 ways to grow, and we spent a lot of time pointing out that if you really focus on that green, existing customers, existing products and services, there's plenty more opportunity within that segment. Secondly, even within that segment, we showed you how to focus on those customers that really want what you're offering. You really want that, how you invest your time, so how you focus your executive time, your salespeople's time, your organizational time, really, really growing that segment. And thirdly, the segmentation you can do on your portfolio will show you're getting very handsome margins in some areas. Do more of that kind of work, and you're losing your shirt in other areas, and you shouldn't be. You should be stopping or slowing that kind of work. So very simple, practical things that you can do. There's no cost cutting. There's no headcount reduction. This is just good business practice with a little bit, as Andre said, evidence, flooring by the numbers in order to help you grow your business. So Andre, that was That was a masterclass in profit improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, go for the obvious. Go for the obvious. It
All right.
always works.
Any comments? Please post comments about the show on LinkedIn. Refer us to your friends, and we'll be back next week. We're hoping to have another guest next week. Not quite sure which of the 17 people that want to come on the show we're going to pick. It's going to be a bit of a fight, but it's goodbye from me.
Bye from Andre. All the best, guys.
Yeah. Bye-bye.